Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about one of my favorite new features in the 4.04 update to the SP404, and that is sound generator. So this makes the SP404 basically completely standalone. It used to need at least some form of sample to come into it, either a synthesizer, drum samples, or vinyl samples, anything like that. Now you can create sounds within it. But one of the first things to note is if you don't have any effects on, the sound can be a little grating, and I actually found it's really hot when you're recording, so I put the level down quite a bit. But if you use some effects, we've got 4 on the SP, 4 bus effects, you can get this to sound really good. Let me just walk through what we've got in the sound generator really quickly, and then we'll talk getting it to sound more like a synthesizer and act more like a synthesizer. So we've got our waveform type. So it starts at sine, and there's a ton of different sounds: saw wave, triangle waves, pulse wave, and even noise. And if you've seen this video, we can use the noise, resample it, and make some drum sounds like hi-hats, kicks, snares, things like that. So theoretically, we could make every sound on this. But let's go back to a proper waveform. We'll use saw. And if you look on the right side, on the bottom right, you can change octave, and you can change what settings you have. You have tune, envelope, and I found the envelopes as of right now, this is before any updates or patches, don't seem to change anything. The one thing that does seem to change when you export is if you hold shift pad length, that is the duration that this sample is going to be if you export it into a sample pad. And we'll do that in a second. Also in these settings, you can change scale. There's a bunch of really cool scales. You can change the note so that it's not just C as the tonic, it could be any note. Now let's start adding some effects and seeing how we can color this. This is compared to Synth that we just completely open the filter, just put it all the way to 100. So we need a filter to control some of this harshness and noise. We're gonna use a super filter, and now listen to that. And I've got a little resonance, low on the cutoff, and if we go back to the filter, I've got an LFO that's doing a measure, or a 1 bar, at 24 depth. So not a ton, but it's just kind of moving the filter a little bit. I love that in filters with an LFO. Get the filter to move a little so that it's never stuck at whatever knob or whatever setting you set it to. Then, yeah, let's do Kodama for bus 2. So with just a couple of effects, you can get it to sound much more like a synth. So one of its biggest drawbacks still, after all of the sound design, is the fact that it's monophonic. I can't hold 2 notes, 3 notes, anything like that. But we do have a way of getting polyphony on the SP404. So let's bake this sound into a sample pad. We'll do 10. You just hit record when you're in the sound generator, which to get to is shift record setting. So once you choose the pad, hit record again, and it's just gonna bake it in. Now the effects are there, but that's because they were still set. If we shut it, it's that harsh sound again. So we can just either resample or let it be, depending on how we're going to do it. I am just going to resample with the filter on, but not Kodama. I just want to control that. That's a bit too harsh for me. So I'm just going to resample that right on 11. We set that to 6 seconds, so that's why it's such a long sample. But I like having that flexibility because what we're going to do next to make it polyphonic will lengthen or shorten the duration of the sample. So 6 seconds isn't too bad to have. We'll stick with this for now. But now we've freed up one slot where we don't need the filter, so we could add a couple more effects. But let's go into chromatic, and it's still monophonic, but if we hit remain a couple times, we get to poly mode. Now I'm gonna turn on Kodama again, and I'm gonna put on, let's say 404, and let's see if we've got polyphony now. There we go. Now we've got polyphony and a really nice sounding synthesizer, and we just used a simple saw wave. We could do this with a triangle waveform and do a lot of different effects and things like that to get a really interesting sound to it. We could even put maybe an isolator to trim out some of the low end there if we wanted the bass to fit in better. could get lost in this. This is what I'm saying, is that now we have the ability to not even need a synthesizer. The SP404 is incredibly portable and can go out with batteries or a power bank. And now we can just do live improvs on top of songs without needing a synthesizer, or record with the live looper, which we'll talk about in a second. Also, before we move on to the next topic, another way to use this sound generator is with the two noise settings. I did that with these two. I have a hi-hat and a snare or rim shot. It's a little quiet. I'd have to do a little more resampling, but I'm gonna show you how to make these two. So there's a couple different ways. Let's check out what we've got. So we have noise 1 and noise 2. Noise 2 has a little more bass, it sounds like to me. So let's start with noise 1 for a hi-hat. Also, see this cycle frequency? If we hold shift, we can do this duty cycle, and it gets a bit weird. So you can probably mess with that to get some interesting sounds. Let's just take this sound and we'll stick to, let's say, 2 seconds. Let's go back to noise 2, and I'm going to export that, and we'll put it on 4 just real quick. So just some white noise, right? Okay. So we can do a couple things. To get a hi-hat, we can put on a ring mod and put the frequency pretty high up and the balance fully. And then we need to just go to the chop real short, add a quick little envelope just to take out. There we go. Now let's check out that ring mod again. Okay, so now we've got little hi-hat. And all we did was use the ring mod and chop it up. Got the balance on 100, sensitivity, let's actually put up. And you can mess with the frequency a little bit. Now, if we wanted to get a sort of snare, it's very similar. Drop the pitch a little bit, mess with the isolator a little bit, and add a little bit of reverb or even distortion. All right, let's resample that, and then we'll mess with it a little more. There we go. So let's fix the endpoint, and then we'll drop the pitch. This is the sound we made, and with the ring mod, we get a hi-hat, and with what we did for 8, we get that snare sound. So let's really quickly, we need to just get this hi-hat. We're gonna resample to 12. There we go. So Sound Generator works great, not just for synth sounds, but also for drum one-shots. I'm still working on getting a good kick sound, but if I do, I'll make a short out of it and show you. If you have a way of making a kick with it, let us know in the comments. Let's actually make a pattern using that pad we made and these drums. So we'll just use the live looper, and let's set it for 90. Perfect. All right, now let's find where we've got that. There we go. And let's get some Kodama back on. All right, let's go into chromatic mode. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so the next way to use the sound generator is to create long sounds or samples that you can chop up. This is kind of as if we were sampling from a vinyl or from a synthesizer, taking a longer idea and then chopping it up to get some really interesting happy accidents and things like that. So I took that idea we were doing in the live looper and made it in the patterns. Let's just copy just the synth sound to 3. And I'm gonna add one more little idea on top of that. Can't help myself. There we go, perfect. Now we're going to just bounce that to a pad. Let's do 1. And this takes a second, I'll skip this. Let's take this idea and move it to another bank right here, because we're gonna chop it up a little bit. So we're gonna go shift chop, that's the start and end. And let's just do an auto mark. And let's do, because we don't have a lot of space on these, let's do time division of just 4. and see what it does. Okay, I actually kind of like that. So let's let's put that in. We'll assign to pad, and we'll just do. I'm gonna pitch those up a little bit too. Okay, so now we've got a new idea that came from that, and we could have split it up more and done some crazier stuff, but one thing we do need to do though is fix the attack and release just a little bit, because there's a little clicking. So now we've got this really cool sound. Let's take that drum idea, and we'll just take the drums, put it there. Okay, let's record. Let's actually put those drums on bus 2 so we can do some effects. Now let's see what this sounds like. The final way to use the sound generator is to just use it as a live synth on top of sounds you're making. So we've already got this awesome track that we made, right? We can take the sound generator and try to find what key we're in, because we did repitch it and things like that, and take any sort of sound we want. Sine's really good for bass lines. Triangle's good for bass lines as well. Saw if you want to get that like gritty sound. Let's use a triangle. And let's turn on the pattern and see if we can figure out what key we're in now. I like to put the octave up a little bit first because you can hear the frequencies a little better. The lower octaves kind of muddy it up a bit. So let's turn this on. And we can't do it in pattern select, so we have to get out of that to the sample pad. Let's go, we'll use the triangle, and let's put the octave up a little bit. So we know 5 doesn't work. Okay, those work, so we can use that. So let's drop the octave down. So there you go. That's a way to quickly just test out some ideas. And then if you wanted to get that sequenced in, I don't think you can sequence the sound generator, but you can always do what we did in the first part and just export it to a track and then take that as a baseline that you can throw on top. But those are 3 ways to use the SP404's new sound generator. And really quickly before we go, I just want to talk about a couple of bugs that I've discovered with this new update. And if you've got any, let us know in the comments. Hopefully this gets patched, and I will put in the timestamps if it got patched. Some of them I've actually figured some ways to fix it, so let's just go over it quickly. The first one is noise on loops and overdubs. So before I reformatted the SD card and did a system reset, I was getting these weird clicks and pops as soon as I'd start overdubbing, and I'll play a little bit of an example right now. So the way I fixed it, as I mentioned, is I formatted a new SD card because I saw on Reddit someone was saying that their SD card got corrupt in the update process. To format a new SD card or reformat one, go to Shift 14 and go to Format SD Card. I'm not going to do that now. I thought it fixed it at first and it didn't. So then I did a system reset, not a factory reset, which will delete all of the pads and things like that. Go to Shift 13, go down to Factory and go to System Data. Now you'll notice when you do that, you'll lose all of your saved effect settings, all of the bus 3 and 4 settings you've done, which was a bit of a bummer. And then also the colors of the pads will change back to their original default. But that is a way, at least I found, to fix the really bad clicking and popping, but I'm still getting some overdub, just general distortion. And maybe that's level. I have to mess with the live looper more. And then the last one is sound generator clipping. This thing can record really hot, especially on 127 level. So I keep the level really low and that seems to work. So just keep in mind if you're doing live looping and you find that's really clipping and things like that, take that level down a little bit. It will make a difference. I appreciate you hanging out. We'll play out with a little bit of the beat we made. And if you want to check out the full beat, get all of the beats that we make in these videos, check out the channel memberships. The Solar Sailor tier also get all of these samples that we make in every video. So you'll get those drums, the pads, the one shots, all of that as part of the membership. It's the best way to support the channel. So if you like what we do here on the channel and want to help support, hit that join button right there. So that's how to use the sound generator to create beats with the SP404. But what do you do once you've got a beat? Check out this video next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.